In the last video, we used OpenBB to create and export a dataset, and today we're going to use OpenBB to conduct some time series forecasting on a dataset. So this is one that I made for a project for myself. This is Small Cap Growth Stocks, this ROU fund from Russell. So we've got the close price here, and we've got 13 indicators here as well, and we're going to see how well this can predict. But before we get into that, I'm going to show y'all some of the OpenBB documentation. This is a good resource to have. It kind of goes through what exactly is happening and some of the specific commands that you'd want to use. So you're going to click on this OpenBB terminal here. It'll prompt a login, and you should have an account if you have the software. So we're going to hit See More. We're going to go into the Usage, Intros, Forecasting. So this is an intro to the forecasting hub. First, it gets into loading the data, which I will get into because that's not exactly self-explanatory, and it took me a second to figure out. I'm not afraid to admit that. And if you keep scrolling down here, you will see a very useful -H hub here, and that pulls up help for any specific model that you want to use. So we're going to be using that today as we get into a recurrent neural net and all of the ways to customize that and make it better. So first things first, loading that data set. So OpenBB user data will be a folder on your computer if you download this. And you're going to want to be in this exports file here. Any dataset that you export from OpenBB will automatically be here for consideration. We're going to be in dataset 2 RUO. If you want to import a dataset that you didn't create in OpenBB, you're going to want to add that to the custom imports here. And now we're going to get into it as I load up OpenBB here. So here's our hub again. We've seen this before. Last time we were in the stocks section and the forecasting section, but today we're just going to jump right into forecasting here because we have our data set already. So from forecasting, we're going to want to load a data set here, and again looking for data in these two folders. So that's where they're going to want to be if you're using OpenBB here. So we're going to load a file, and here's our drop down menu, everything that's in that tab. And we're looking for dataset 2 RUO. So we've got that one loaded. And we're going to get into these recurrent neural nets. But before we do that, I'm going to do the -H here. And this pulls up all the different ways to customize it. You can change the number of epochs, you can change the target column, the train test split, all the same things that you can kind of customize in Python as you're creating a model. You can customize in here. So for this particular project, it defaults here, the metric defaults to mean absolute % error. But I want the mean squared error because that's the metric that I'm using for my own models. So I'm kind of using this recurrent neural net as a baseline for a neural net that I'm going to create on my own. So we're going to do RNN dash dataset right there. And then we're going to do metric. So we can change it to the metric that we want. We want the mean squared error. You can also change, like I said, the training time, target column, the number of days, the split. We're going to keep everything at the baseline right now and see what this output is and what it can tell us about our data. So I'm going to let this run. And I'm going to be back as soon as this is finished and we can look at the findings. So our neural net is done making its predictions. It has a mean squared error of 0, which is questionable. We love good results, but sometimes when they're too good, it can raise questions, right? So this is the chart. You can actually export all of this into another CSV file if you would like, but for the purpose of this demonstration, I do not need to do that. Then we can look at the actual predictions that it's making. So we see a little bit of variance, which is good. Going from 161 to 163 and back down. A lot of times if you don't have enough data, there won't be much variance in its predictions, which tells you that your data set is not good enough to make predictions on what you're trying to. So what we're seeing is that it's fairly accurate at making predictions. We have that mean squared error of 0, which I think is very good. I think I'm going to change up a little bit. So let's go RNN-H. And this time we can change it so it defaults to an LSTM model. And so this time we can change it to an RNN or a GRU model. So let's run that this time. So we're going to do RNN dataset here, and then we're going to do -- model type. And we want that to be an RNN this time. And we still want the metric to be mean squared error. And so now we're going to run that. And while that is running, there's another point that I wanted to speak on. And this is a little bit about workflow. It can be kind of tedious if you're doing the same thing over and over, because you got to put all those inputs in. But there's actually something called hotkeys and routines. And so you can script a routine and create a hotkey for it so that when you just type in the hotkey, it runs the entire routine. And so I haven't done that before because I haven't used that super extensively to where I would need to. But this is a great resource if you are using this a lot and you're finding some of the redundancies in setting it up. But we're just going to wait for this RNN to finish, and I will be right back to analyze some more of the results. Alright, so we've got the results for our modified recurrent neural net as we changed it from an LSTM to an RNN. Again, mean squared error is at 0, which means this thing's pretty good at making predictions. But let's take an actual look at the variance in our predictions. And they're a little bit different. We can actually go back and check, because this is in the past. Our data set's not completely up to date today. So we could go and look, and I think it actually dipped into the 1140s, which means it's not amazing at predicting. But again, this is a baseline. This is a tool to show us that our data set is good enough to make a model around. And you don't have to have any questions about, am I missing any features? Do I need to add any features? We can be confident in this moving forward and to make our own model. And so that's all I've got for you guys today. Just a quick little guide at how to make that. A few more points that I want to talk on. We did the -H for help. And that's going to be a different menu depending on what forecasting one that you select. So obviously there's different parameters to change. So there's a lot of freedom here. For the next video, I'm going to get into the portfolio optimization function in OpenBB. Specifically because it pertains to my project. I'm trying to create an ETF based on other ETFs, based on the predictions that we're getting. So portfolio optimization is going to be huge here, and I'd love to see how OpenBB can help. So it's another short video about how to navigate this. If you guys want to see any topics in particular, please leave a comment as I try to grow this page a little bit from a passion project into something worthwhile. So I appreciate you guys. Stay tuned for the next one.